Alright, in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 things that, as a runner, I've just decided I'm not going to change anymore. Now, recently, I went ahead and had a video go really well. It's a 10 must-haves as a beginner runner. Check that out if you haven't already, but I got a really great comments and feedback specifically on that video, and I wanted to double down a little bit about some specific things for me as a runner that just work and why they work. And so number one are my daily trainers or my running shoes of choice. Now a few months ago I decided, hey, I'm gonna try a new brand. I got a pair of Sauconys, great company, and I put about 50 to 60 miles into those shoes before I went ahead and went into my last marathon, and after about mile 13, 14, my feet were absolutely killing me. So by the end of that race, I just decided, you know what, these shoes are not for me, returned them, got a pair of Hoka Cliftons, which have always done really well for me. Now fast forward a few months later, I decided to start a YouTube channel, and I wanted to be able to speak to brands a little bit more fluently, so I wanted to try a few other ones out. I got a pair of Asics Gel Nimbus 25s that just came out, phenomenal shoe, but I started experiencing similar issues. Midsole, top of my feet, hurting a lot after mile 5, mile 6, but then I put on my Cliftons, Hoka Cliftons, these are the 8s, and I could go ahead and do 10, 15 miles, absolutely no problem. And so I've just decided I'm doubling down on Hokas. Now, what is the hype over Hokas? New York Times came out recently with an article that Hokas are not to be for everyone, but for those who may experience any sort of like chronic pain, they have phenomenal stability and cushioning along with energy output. Now, the cushioning is really thick and bouncy. You'll see here on the Hoka Bondies that I have. They are much wider than most shoes, which I'll get into in a second, but because of the cushioning, you have a lot of cushioning in the midsole, and every stride that you take, you're going to get a little bit more momentum to move forward. Now, specifically the wide feature, I'm a 10.5, so pretty average feet, but I do have wider feet, and because of that, having a wider framed shoe allows my feet to expand properly when I'm sweating and they're swollen, but they just have more room to be able to breathe. Because of that, I am able to have more of a comfortable stride and be able to be on my feet a lot longer. And so Hokas for me, I'm just gonna double down. So I have 2 pairs of Hoka Cliftons now, and these ones here, I did go ahead and I went ahead and retired them after about 400 miles, so that's pretty standard for most running shoes, and I have about 315, 320 in the Bondies. I'll probably put another 50 or 60 miles on these, but because I'm rotating my shoes properly, having 2 or 3 in rotation at any given point, I could get as much miles as 400 out of every single pair of my Hokas. So I'm a Hoka guy now. Alright, next up, what I'm definitely just not going to change, and this is not going to be a surprise if you watch some of my other videos, are these. These are, I'm going to argue this until I'm blue in the face, are probably the best headphones for any endurance athlete. These are phenomenal for cyclists and definitely for runners. Now, what they are, they're Aftershok's AirPods, but these are the Open Run edition. And what's really, really great about them is that they fit right over your ears like this, and the sound quality is phenomenal. Now, what I love most about them is that they have 8 hours worth of battery life. So if you're doing any of your runs in AirPods and they die halfway through a race and you're super frustrated, AirPods are definitely the way to go. Now, the one main reason why I love these over most headphones, number one, is because of the battery life. 8 hours, you are going to absolutely have plenty of time to be able to run your marathon, and you are not going to have those die on you. Now, I've had these for about 3 years, over 3,000 miles minimum, and yes, the battery is not as great as day one, but I can still run a full marathon on a full battery, and they are just not going to die on me. Now, if you want to go ahead and upgrade to the Pro Edition, which is a little bit more expensive, they have 10 hours worth of life. Now, the other main reason why I love these is safety. Because they're bone conducting, you don't have anything in your ear, so you can actually hear everything around you. I run on a lot of cycling paths and on busy streets, so I can hear all the cyclists, I can hear all the cars. The only time I can never hear the music too well is on like a busy highway if I'm going across like an underpass or a bridge. But essentially, these headphones, the sound quality is phenomenal. I could always hear my podcasts and my music really, really crystal clear, but I could also hear the creak alongside of me. I could hear the cyclists coming up behind me. I could hear other runners even. So they're just hands down the safest headphones you could have while you're out there, and safety is one of the most important things to take note of when you're out there by yourself especially. Alright, now the last thing that I wanted to point out to make sure that if you don't have one, get one, and get one that's going to be comfortable, is a yoga mat or a mat that is going to just treat your joints and your knees with respect. Now, I don't love stretching. I've made a ton of content on this already that like I'm not great at stretching, but I'm really focusing on it because mobility is everything. It's more important than the runs that you're on, the pace that you're doing, anything like that. If you have really bad mobility, you are gonna have a really bad time as a endurance athlete. So, but when it comes to a yoga mat, you could get a really thin one, but for me, you know, I'm out there constantly hitting the pavement and like putting a lot of stress on my joints. The last thing I want to do is like get on my knees and try to do like a pigeon or a lizard, and like my knees going into the ground, and it's uncomfortable. So I highly encourage get a yoga mat or a workout mat that has at least a half an inch of thickness of foam. And this is what I use on a daily basis, at least twice a day, once in the morning and then once after a run or in the evening if I'm going to do some like yoga or a pliability session. But specifically having a yoga mat with really good cushioning, you're going to want to use it more because it's so much more comfortable. I'll link some things in the bottom of the description if you want to check them out. I specifically got mine from a CrossFit gym a few years ago. Really great quality. When it comes to certain things, I do believe that you kind of get what you pay for, but you could definitely find different ones on the market a little bit cheaper. But you want to get a yoga mat that you're comfortable on, that you can absolutely use on a daily basis, but you want to get one that's going to be a lot more comfortable, and so that extra cushioning is going to go a long way.